Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new episode. Episode 2. You found your way back. Foxy found his way back. And, might be joined with a few others. Remember, you can watch us live on twitch.tv/primal_target. In this episode, we are going to, we already did. We watched VHS 2. And that was the continuation off of last week's movie, which was VHS. Yeah, this movie was a little bit different to the first one. The setup's different, but the anthology part to this movie is the same. Now let's dive into the rules of how MovieKombat works, because now we have a challenger. We have a movie that will be challenging VHS, which is its younger brother, VHS 2. So the way that it works is throughout this season, like we said in the beginning of last episode, every single movie is fighting for itself to be the number one spot of these movies. So that will be rated, and then they will be compared, and then they will see if this one was better than this one, and if it is, it will go to the top echelon of this season. As of right now, sitting alone on the chart is VHS with a 6.6 from me, the PT stamp, and then the PT Nation stamp, or seal of approval. We'll go with seal of approval, is a 5 out of 10. So last episode, VHS got a seal of approval from Primal Target with a 6.6 out of 10, and PT Nation got a 5 out of 10. Remember, the PT Nation is everyone in Twitch chat at that current time. So if you want to be a part of that voting process, make sure you're here live on Twitch. Okay. The categories. Remember, I wanted to do some fun categories alongside with watching this movie. Kind of keeps me interested into watching it because I got to pay attention. So our fun categories are, does the camera get used for sex? Does that happen? How many times does that happen? We kept a tally. The other one, as you can see, there's been some discussion of it already. How many times does the camera change hands? So it's going to be -1. Essentially, how many times does the camera go to another person? If it gets handed to another person, or if it switches to another person's point of view, that counts as a change. Now, once that change happens, it does not get counted again. So if that person gets switched back to, it doesn't count as like back and forth, and then the number keeps going up. It's how many times it gets switched back to a new person. The next one is, how many times does the camera get dropped? How many times does the footage get malfunctioned? And lastly, how many people die? This one is up for debate, so I'll let you guys discuss it, and I'll talk with Foxy about it as well, and whoever else joins during the time of that we're doing this. So anyway, let's start it off. The way that this one starts off is not like how the first one. This one starts off with what seems to be a guy trying to get some dirt on what we can assume is either some wife, or no, he doesn't say that. It's a guy filming this random stranger picking up some girl, and they start having sex. That counts as one, so there's a point there. And then the guy runs out, and he's like, "Whoa, wait, da-da-da-da." And then we come to find out that he's going to blackmail him. So he's kind of this blackball, like, sleaze bag that makes money off of filming, I'm assuming, some politician or whatever, and trying to get a check. That's essentially where our main character. And then we see that he actually has kind of a partner in crime, which is this woman who we find out is kind of like his girlfriend or fiance or something like that. So that also happens. And then they decide to sneak into this house that they seem to have some sort of tip on, that there's something going on with this. So they sneak into this house, and they find that there's a whole bunch of TVs and tapes scattered around, and then there's a webcam open. So the guy decides, hey, you stay here. I'm going to go look around. I'm going to see if there's anyone here or if there's anything crazy. He goes and does that. The gal decides, okay, I'm going to sit here. I'm going to download all the stuff off of his laptop, and then we can leave and blah, blah, blah. So as she's waiting there, she's like, okay. She sees that the webcam is still on, which is weird. So you're like, odd. So we move across that, and she puts in the first tape. And the first tape is, oh yeah. So I guess, let me ask this. How many times do you think, Foxy, you answered the first question here. How many times do you think the camera gets used for sex? I will tell you my answer later. If you are putting in the comments on the YouTube, go ahead and you can guess how many times. All your guesses, and then if you got them right. How about that? If you're watching on YouTube, put your guesses in the chat and tell me if you got them right. So there you go. So the first question is, does the camera get used for sex? And we'll answer that after this first tape. So the first tape is this guy that seems to be getting surgery. He gets a surgery. The surgery is the camera is in his eye. You're like, why is that happening? We get to his house, and all of a sudden things start getting glitchy, and he starts seeing things, which is kind of weird. After he starts seeing things, he calls the doctor and says, hey, I'm getting this thing out of here. It freaked me out last night. You need to fix it. He goes out the next morning, is so tired, he just crashes on his couch, and it seems that he's overslept. When he walks over, he sees that there's a girl at his door, and he's like, what? That's kind of weird. The girl then is saying like, hey, are you seeing things? And he's like, yeah, how do you know that? They go in, she starts talking about it, and she says that she has something like that, but it's hearing. She doesn't see things, she hears weird things. Over that long process, you start to find out that she can hear the dead and he can see the dead. Kind of weird. And she can hear where there are people walking around his house. Turns out there's also her uncle follows her around. We can assume the uncle was a terrible person because she says that. Probably did some stuff to her. And we can assume that the things he's seeing might be related to him. But we don't know who that is. We see that it's a little girl and a guy, like an adult. So you're like, that's kind of weird. Then he mentions he lost his eyesight in an accident. So that's kind of something. They don't say exactly what things are or what their scenario is. My guess is he got into a car accident and he killed both of them. That's never said, but I assume that's the vibe I got, is the accident killed the little girl and the dad. I don't know what kind of accident. It could have been a car crash, or he could have hit them, something along those lines. The next night, they're all there, and she gets like the girl that can hear things gets drug into the pool. She dies. He goes into the bathroom, is like, I'm done with this. Takes a scalpel. I hate eye things, so that was really gross. Stabs his eye out, pokes it out, and then he gets killed by these ghostly creatures, and that we assume he dies from them. But he gets the camera, the eyeball, shoved into his mouth, and we can assume that what followed after that was probably his death. So that's the end of the first tape, and that one was okay. It definitely had kinky. It definitely had a good story. It left a little bit too much to try and grab. Like, it leaves too much for me to think about, where it's like, I get it because, like, I can put two and two together. He said he got into an accident. It's a daughter and what we can assume a dad, and they died, but we can't assume like what he got in trouble for. We don't know what the company that they were doing was that gave him the eye, that gave her the hearing. It's really weird. It leaves too much to interpretation. So with that, it's kind of like a mid sort of story, but it's like a good concept in my opinion. But anyway, so the first question, how many times does the camera get used for sex in this entire movie? I counted 4 times. If you counted less or more, let me know, but I counted 4 times. So, okay. The next one. How many times does the camera change? So go ahead and put your guess, and we'll see if you got it. So we go back to the house where the dirt sheet couple is at. So the boyfriend and girlfriend are at, and she's kind of like, oh, that was kind of weird, and she's kind of like just like weirded out by the whole situation. Looks at the laptop and then like plays even more. There is like a video of a guy that's in that room talking about how he found all these tapes and how they've been around the internet. What seems to be like he's talking to like some, I don't know, 4chan sort of like chat room people where he's been sending tapes and he's been receiving tapes and watching all of these weird things. There's like an order to watching them. So anyway, he's just talking about how it's the guy on the laptop is talking about whatever, and she kind of pays no bother to it. The boyfriend goes, well, okay, he like lowers the volume down and tells her like, okay, hey, you know, I'm gonna keep looking around, I'm gonna try to find the thing, blah blah blah. And then she goes, okay, and then she puts in another tape. I only saw 2 from what I saw, the beginning and the person with the camera eye. Oh, believe me, there are a lot more. Okay, so yeah, so the girl decides, okay, well, I'm gonna wait a little longer. She puts in another tape, and this tape is a guy that is is like riding his bike through this obstacle course thing, and through that time he has like a GoPro on and he has some sort of bike camera on. He's riding that. He goes through it all, and then he crashes, and this woman is like, hey, you gotta help me, there's something wrong. And she starts throwing up this black sludge, and he's like, whoa, what the hell? Okay. And then he goes into the woods. He sees there's a group of people there, and they chase him down, and he's like, whoa, whoa, and he runs back to the girl. The girl is like sitting there, and then she attacks him, bites him, and he beats her face in with a rock and presumably kills her. And yeah, this is all to be zombies. This is a tape about zombies' point of view. So a guy changes into, you watch him go through the process of him changing into a zombie, wandering through the woods, seeing 2 people, he gnaws on them for a little bit, turns them into zombies. Then they go into some like park celebration of a birthday, and of some kid's birthday party. They start with the 2 people he just gnawed on. They start gnawing on people in the party. Those people turn into zombies, and you're seeing a version of a zombie outbreak from the perspective of a zombie, which I think is kind of a cool concept. It's like interesting. You don't see that very often. I wouldn't see like a whole movie about this, but it definitely has like kind of a unique sort of storytelling, because then at the end of the movie, you can see that the zombie sees a reflection of himself, or the end of the tape, I'm sorry, sees a reflection of himself, and he kind of snaps out of it a little bit, where he's not acting like a zombie. Like, he's like, oh man, I can't believe this is what I look like. And then he picks up a teddy bear, which reminds him of his girlfriend. Then he gets hit by a car, and then he butt dials his girlfriend, and you can see this, not see, but you can kind of hear and watch the mannerisms of this guy that we're watching the perspective of go through this, like, I know that I'm a zombie and I'm a monster. And he rolls over to this like shotgun of some guy went in there and started shooting a shotgun off. And he loads the shotgun and blows his head off. And that's the end of that tape, which is like it's an interesting story, and I actually think this is probably one of the best, if not the best story, this best tape of this film. And yeah, kills himself with a zombie shotgun. Yeah, and I just think that this one was like, it was unique. It was a good, straightforward storytelling. It had a little bit of emotion to it. There was something else to the like to this tape, whereas like the last one, just I feel like it went way too long. This one was like a very short one, but enough to tell you the story and to kind of keep the thing going, to then send us back to the house where the boyfriend and girlfriend are. Hard to tell how many people died in the zombie part. Yeah, see, so that's where I got into deaths. And I'll get into this when we get to another tape. Zombies to me don't count because they're still in there. And we even got evidence that the zombie is still human, just a like very rabid version of one. So I didn't count any of the zombies as deaths unless they actually did get killed. So in the sense of a shotgun to the head, he bashed that one gal's brains in. That was a death because she's definitely dead. So once you kill the zombie version, that to me was a death. But like zombies in general did not count to me as a death. So I didn't count those. So if you did, then your number's going to be different than mine. But if you counted like the actual death part of when he shot himself, that to me was a death. He died. He didn't come back. Or the girl that got beaten in, she died. So anyway, so how many times did the camera change hands? And I mean, how many times did the camera change to a different camera or was handed to somebody else or, you know, that kind of thing. And I counted 26 times. 26 times. Preacher, I have arrived, was on the phone with Fresh. Okay, well, welcome here. We're in the middle of MovieKombat. We are about halfway through VHS 2 right now, so welcome, Preacher. Now, continuing on, we're back to the middle of the room here with the gal that has been watching these tapes. Her nose is now bleeding profusely, and the guy was like, hey, is this one of your migraine things? Like, do you have any pills? And he noticed, or she goes, yeah, in my bag. So he looks into the bag, sees that there's nothing in there. There's a pistol, there's some Band-Aids, there's nothing else in her purse. So he's like, okay, well, I'll go to the store. I saw one not too far away. I'll be right back. He leaves to go get that, and she stays to watch another tape. So the next question is, how many times does the camera get dropped? How many times do you think the camera gets dropped in this entire movie? So let me catch up here on chat. To be honest, once or twice, just because it's just a POV change, not handing over to someone. Oh, that's a way to see it. But I also, you could count how many times because there are technically 4 different, perspectives here. So I think there's 4 tapes. I actually don't even know how many tapes there are. But every time it changes the tape, that's different perspective. So dropped 5 times. 5 times. All right. I didn't get around watching to it. Lots of overtime. No, that's totally fine. That's totally fine. Sometimes you can't watch them all. But I think, Preacher, if you got my message on Discord, you probably would have skipped at least one section of it. And I think Foxy agrees to that as well. So, but anyway, we're almost out of VHS territory, and we're going to get into some different movies that, that aren't going to be as bad as those ones. But anyway, so moving on, we get into the next tape, which is the cult tape. This is the one I told you, Preacher, that you would have just skipped. This one, to me, went way too long. Like, so slow. And especially since this is I've seen this movie before. Going back and watching this, one time through might be a different experience. The second time watching this was rough. It is, so it's this camera crew. They are talking with we'll eventually find out he's a cult leader, and he starts talking about how, like, yeah, you can go down to my place and you can see how the cult is and this and that. And the camera crew's like, great, let's head over there. So they eventually head over there and look at the camera, or they bring all their cameras to this sanctuary sort of situation. And there's a lot of young women and like sort of middle-aged men walking around, and the cult leader is in his like office area. So the plan with the camera crew is they're going to like eventually act as if they are going to go and see some stuff that they weren't supposed to see while they're in the interview process of talking with this guy. So the whole camera crew goes up to the office of this cult leader. He starts talking to the things, and one of the gals the only gal in the camera crew is acting like she's about to throw up. So she like leaves, and the cameraman is like, hey, I can go check on her and see if she's okay. So he leaves the room, and the head guy is like, hey, sorry about that. We'll just, let them go. Let's start our interview process. So I'll pause here. Let's take a look at chat. Cult stuff I know Preacher couldn't get through. Yeah, it was pretty bad. I don't mind any of that stuff. Just right now with my wife being pregnant, anything with baby and pregnant women. Cult situation, it does deal with pregnancy. Because I will about to say, it turns out that the only girl on the camera crew is pregnant. But it also, we find out that the girl is actually the fiance of the lead guy, and the cameraman and the fiance cheated on him, and she got pregnant. So she's pregnant, and it's with the what's his face. It's with the cameraman. And so they start talking about that. While that's all happening, the guy, so I'm gonna back up just a little bit. The lead guy went back to the car to get an extra battery for a camera. While he was doing that, he overheard all that. So he actually knows now, and he's pissed. While that whole situation is happening, the sound guy is waiting in the room with the cult leader. So let's locate everybody right now, okay? We're all over the place, but let's locate everybody. Sound guy is with the cult leader in that room. Outside, the lead guy is getting an extra battery. But while he was doing that, he looked at all the cameras because all of them are wearing video camera buttons on themselves. And he saw the interaction between the fiance and the camera guy saying the whole spiel. So lead guy is outside hearing all this. While that's happening and they're arguing, things start to not go so well. The fiance gets pissed at the cameraman saying, you're acting as if you don't even want this kid. And he's like, yeah, I will pay for this to get over with so you could go and be with the lead guy. And the fiance gets pissed. She walks off. He's alone. The cameraman's alone. Then back in the room, the cult leader starts talking crazy. Go figure. And then leaps over the counter and attacks the sound guy. And while that's happening, cameraman decides to look around a little bit. He goes into these back rooms and sees that there's a woman on a pregnancy bed, and her like belly is exploded. And you're like, oh! And so he runs away. Chaos starts ensuing. And then it cuts back to the cult leader taking an X-Acto knife, stabbing it into the sound guy's throat while everyone isn't in the room. Then it cuts back to this classroom of children and two teachers, and they're handing out these like cups of what we will call Kool-Aid. And then we cut back to the fiance and cameraman. They argue a little bit. They turn around. They come back into the room, and all the kids and the teachers are dead because they drank the cyanide-infused Kool-Aid or whatever. Then it cuts back, and the main guy sees all this because remember he's outside looking in the at all of the camera feeds and he's flipping through everything. So he decides, you know what? No, I'm going to go inside. I got to go save my friends. He runs back inside. As he runs back inside, he sees all of these guys standing in the entryway and he pops. They all shoot themselves and you're like, holy crap, it's a whole suicide cult. So everyone's killing themselves and it's crazy. You know, fast forward. A main guy gets captured. Alana, how's it going? Fresh, how's it going? All of this chaos is happening, and the main guy gets captured. He gets brought into this room, and they're about to kill him. Cameraman finds main guy and goes, whoa, hey, you don't have to shoot our guy. Like, we'll leave. And one of the suicide cult members has a shotgun. He's like, nope, you stay there. Don't come any further. I'll shoot him if you come any further. And remember, main guy knows that of the situation with fiance and cameraman and decides, hey, just so you know, I know all this and that. So this guy then gets shot in the head. And he's like, really? The main guy, the last thing he hears, his day consisted of going to this cult leader, talking to him, leaving, finding out that your friend is cheating on you, or your fiance is cheating on you with your best friend. He comes back in to save him, gets captured, shot in the head with a shotgun. So what a terrible storyline for the main guy. So the cameraman's like the last guy alive. He runs off to try and find the fiance. And and then the captor kills himself in that situation. So anyway, the cameraman tries to go find the girl, the fiance. A whole bunch of these like weird, crazy women have captured the fiance and are taking her down into this dungeon type area. And the cameraman almost gets caught, but he hides. And then they go behind a door. And the cameraman's about to go in there, but all of a sudden, this big, giant explosion happens. And this thing crawls on the ceiling and runs away. And you're like, what the hell is happening? Cameraman gets up and starts to walk towards the door, and the cult leader is there, and he has all these weird carvings like a jack-o'-lantern on his stomach, and then he says, it is fulfilled, and then proceeds to explode in front of you, and you're like, oh, it was like a bloody a water balloon. He just blows up and dies. And then it keeps going, fast forward, the cameraman goes in to go try to help the fiance. He sees that she's laying there on the table and all these crazy women are holding her down, and they're holding her down so hard that he can rip their hands off of her. And so he does that. And then she's like, you got to get this thing out of me. You got to get this thing out of me. And you're like, what? And you see that her stomach is starting to expand more and more and more. And you're like, what is going on? And then all of a sudden you see this like this thing moving in her. You're like, what the heck? And then boom, like a freaking like fountain, this demon creature pops out like and starts crawling out. You're like, what the hell's happening? Anyway, let me catch up with chat here. We'll take a break. Okay, Alana says, good you. I'm not doing too bad. You know, fantasy football's making me cry, but other than that, we're okay. And then same with Fresh, I'll answer that too, which is, he said, good, how about you? And same answer. Foxy says, then the capture killed himself. You have the Foxy then said, demon baby thing. Yep, it was a demon baby, and this thing ain't no size of a baby. It is a grown whatever the hell it is. And, yeah, this one was better than the first one, I think. Really? Okay, well, we'll get into that in just a little bit. So, yeah, this creature is, like, shown crawling out of the woman, like, stomach-wise. So, like, raising out of it, like, it's ascending. It's, like, it's insane. But anyway, back to camera guy. He's ran out of the room. He's like, she's dead. I'm done. I don't want to see what this thing is. Runs out, then comes out and sees that all those people that died don't seem to be dead. And they all get up and their eyes are all rolled into the back of their heads and they start attacking him. All the kids are back alive. The teachers are back alive. The people that committed suicide with those guns are back alive. And they are rushing and trying to tackle the camera guy. He gets out. He gets into the car. He starts to drive away. And all of a sudden you hear this like, crunk, 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 and just bam, rush, like blind side hits the car that the guy is in. It rolls over and he's like there laying in the car, the cameraman. He starts to crawl out and he sees this thing over his shoulder and it seems to be some sort of goat creature. Yep, and the demon goes, duh, duh, and then it's over. It ends right there with him dripping snot and, like, the camera guy dripping snot and blood out of his mouth. It's gross. That's the end of that tape. So, with that said, the question is, how many times does the camera get dropped? That means anytime the camera gets dropped. Not set down. Putting the camera down does not count as dropped. How many times? I counted 14. 14 times is how many times I saw the camera get dropped. So, if you think otherwise, let me know. Okay, so the next question, how many times does the footage get malfunctioned? How many times does there be a little pixelated thing or some sort of thing like that? How many times do you think that happens? I think I undercounted again, but also there were times where I'm like, it counts, but it never counts. I don't know. So how many times do you think that happened? Just throw a guess out there. Doesn't have to be right. Just throw one out there. Okay. In the movie, back to the movie, we're back into the room with the girl. She is now dead because she took the pistol from her purse, put it to her temple, and shot it. She's dead. So the guy comes in and he's like, hey, holy crap, like, I got you your I guess she had a splitting headache. And so he's like, oh crap. And so he tries to help her and then sees that there's a tape on the floor that says watch. And so he takes the tape and he puts it in and it's the last tape. So I think it's the last tape. Yeah, it's the last tape. So this one was pretty interesting as well. So it's these kids, they're playing around with some type of GoPro is what we can see. And it turns out that the mom and dad are heading out of town, it looks like, and so they leave. So the sister's in charge while the two brothers are kind of like, all right, fine, you know, we hate her sister because she's a bitch, and that's whatever. So her douchey boyfriend, her best friend, and her best friend's boyfriend show up, and they are, they're there to party, I guess. So the friends, you dislike tape 4 just because of the end. Yeah, this one was a little interesting. So this is, but yeah, so it all kind of like, they invite some friends over themselves. They have their buddies. So there's like the boys group we'll call, and then the girlfriend group. We'll refer to them as that. Or not the girlfriend, the sister group. So the friend, the boys group, the sisters group. Okay. So the boys group decides that they're going to kind of like prank the sisters group. So they like squirt guns. They're throwing like water balloons at them. But as they're like in the water, the camera goes down underwater and they see this thing in the water. But then someone dives into the water, disperses it, and it doesn't, pay no mind to it. Then it cuts and it's the boys' friend group all hanging out and they're dicking around. And then it cuts to them and they see that their sister, which this was the weirdest thing in this entire, and it gets weird in this video, but this is the weirdest thing that happens. It was the brothers find their sister is about to have sex with this guy and they are filming it. They're like filming that this is about to happen. And you're like, what? I wouldn't want to even jokingly record that. That is so weird. So this, yeah. So also this did count. This did count for me. This guy is the boyfriend of the sister group. Yes. It's not like the brothers are having sex with each other. It's the girl. It's the sister's boyfriend. They're having sex, but the boys group is filming this. They're filming it on the thing. Wasn't there like a naked witch in a stairwell in this movie? No, that was in the last movie. That was in VHS 1. So anyway, the boys are filming this, and then they run in there with the rave and doing the whole thing. Yes, that is in the first movie. So they do the whole, they're like dancing around while the sister was about to just get her entire vagine plowed. And they get in trouble. They chase him down. The boyfriend, the boys group runs away. They run outside to try and hide. They get in some sort of altercation with the boyfriend. They're about to like break the camera, and then they just take the camera. So then fast forward, and we see that one of the brothers is watching porn in the room with his friends who are asleep. I don't want to know if anyone ever did this, but I'll tell you this. You'll be safe around me. I will never do any of that ever in front of any, even if they're in the same room. Your buddies are sleeping in a sleeping bag just right next to you, and you're watching porn, jerking off in a sleep. Wait, what if that's not something you're gonna get away from? If they wake up, you're done. You've officially been caught. That's a story that everyone's gonna tell. There's so much to risk. Maybe that's what makes him, do what he needs to do. Anyway, so the sister catches him doing that, and it's on tape, and they find out all this stuff. But then this big giant sound wave happens, and it was like, whoa, what the hell? And then one of the friends is like, there's someone at your door. And they're like, what? And they go over, and they don't see anybody. We're never jerked himself off into the hotel with me. Okay, great. Yeah, they put it on a dog too. There is a dog involved that the camera does get strapped to. Which is kind of a key point, because that does happen. It's on the dog most of the time. So anyway, this big the boyfriend is like, I'm gonna go check this out, and so he takes like a gun and walks over to like this area of the house, and he gets taken out by these creatures, and they look like aliens. So we're in alien territory in this situation. So we're going to refer to them as aliens at this point. They get taken out. And then the girl, or the sister, walks over there. She gets taken out. Then the dog and the youngest brother get bundled into a sleeping bag and thrown into the water as they're, what we assume, are getting taken back to the spaceship, because we think that the spaceship is actually in the water. It's a whole big thing. People are getting abducted left and right. This, that, and the other deal. All this to be, like, they start getting picked off left and right. The brother goes, then the sister goes, then the brother and the dog are in a barn. They get, like, beamed up, and they're getting carried. And unfortunately, the youngest brother does not hold on to the dog. The dog plummets I could assume 100 and some odd feet from the air and lands on the concrete. You don't see like anything too bad. The dog just is laying there, but it ends with the dog eventually stop breathing, and the camera goes out, and that's it. So that's the end of that. It's a bad ending to that one. And then it cuts back to the house. The boyfriend is wondering what the hell he just watched. Then he looks down and he sees that his girlfriend's still dead. He's going, what the hell? And then he sees that the webcam video is still paused. So he decides, I'm going to watch that. So he watches it, and it's this guy in a hood. It's the same guy from the beginning of the movie. And he's talking about how, all right, and now I want to make a film or a tape of my own. And he takes a revolver and then blasts his chin, and it just like obliterates his whole entire jaw. and it looks like he dies. And then he gets up. And then he looks into the camera, and he's like, looks like some sort of squid person because his whole entire face is blown out. And he gets up, and he hears something. So then he leaves the room, and then he starts seeing lights in that webcam. And you're like, oh, that's kind of weird. Enter in the boyfriend and girlfriend trying to find the tape, and then they stop it eventually. And then the girlfriend rises from the dead and starts attacking the boyfriend, and the boyfriend hides from her. He goes into a closet. She like peeks around the closet. He shoots her, and then he hears, and he turns around, and he sees the hooded guy that was from the webcam video in the closet waiting for him, and then he attacks him, the boyfriend, strangles him, and that's the end of the movie. So that's VHS 2, and it's done. Oh, that's right. The guy goes to the camera and he gives it a thumbs up, and then it's over. That is VHS 2. So, how many times did the camera malfunction? I counted 90. I counted 90 times. Oh, Preacher got 90. Oh, nice. He actually got it. That's crazy. It could have been more. I assume it was probably more, but I counted 90. So if you count more, if you want to go through and count every little pixel glitch, go right ahead. I didn't want to count every pixel glitch. I counted it as if I was editing a movie, did that look like it was one dropped in glitch, or was that like a chopped up glitch that looked different? So anyway, that was a wild guess, and I didn't watch the movie. Yeah, you said, yeah, Foxy got 50. So the other one was how many deaths are there? Now this is a controversial one because I counted the deaths in the cult tape as deaths, because that to me was demon possession. Those people were possessed. They're gone. Those are not the same people. So I counted them differently. I did count them dead. I counted, you guys can guess how many people you think died. While you're doing that, I'm going to take a look at IMDb, and we're going to look at the IMDb corner to see if there were any fun facts and tricks and stuff about VHS 2. Is 50. Foxy says 50. Okay. Oh, boy. See that demon over there? Yeah. So, let's see here. Let's look at some trivia. And so 50 is the guess. I counted 39. I think if you count the zombies, you probably will get to that 50 number. But I counted 39. Okay. Sorry about that. I had a Powerade, and I had to burp, and I was trying to hold it back, but I couldn't. All right, here we go. Here's some fun trivia. And I know that Fresh said drink water, and I probably should. All right.
Dummy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dummy. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
Dummy.
here we go.
Yeah.
Top billing for segment Slumber Party. Oh my God. Slumber Party Alien Abduction is given to the dog. Top billing, which means the person who gets paid the most for Slumber Party Alien Abduction, which is the last one, is the dog. That's the top billing. The original title for VHS 2 was SVHS. So there's something. Gareth Evans said that the original cut for Safe Haven was 45 minutes and included more background on the film crew. So the one where they go into the cult, that one was 45 minutes long. So no wonder it felt like it went on forever, because it could have been a movie in its own. So when Larry and Aisha break in and Larry. Oh, okay. When the boyfriend and girlfriend break in, the boyfriend first searches Kyle's house, which is the guy in the hood. Aisha, I think is actually her name, pushes play on Kyle's laptop. 3 seconds of footage that's shown is tape 56 slash frame narrative from VHS from the first one. Therefore, footage of the tape 56 frame narrative is shown in tape 49 frame narrative, placing the first and second films not only in the same universe, but as part of the same plot. Good Lord. Good Lord. Okay. The role of Herman was originally written with James Rolfe in mind. However, Rolfe was unable to accept as he was busy working on Angry Video Game Nerd, the movie. So there you go. All right. That was some trivia. There's some more in there, so if you want to go check it out, I don't want to read all of them. Some goofs. Let's take a look at some goofs. We'll look at... We got 3 continuities and 1 character error. So one of the continuity ones is in the segment Safe Haven. When the lone survivor is trying to escape the area, he smashes the car window to get inside the vehicle. Okay. A few seconds later, when the demon beast attacks the vehicle, bits of glass shatter across the screen, coming from the already missing window. Okay. So there's a little something there. In the segment Safe Haven, again with Safe Haven, when Joni is left alone with Father, okay, so the sound guy gets left alone with the cult leader. In front of his shirt is wet. In the next scene, the shirt is dry. And in the final scene, it was water spots on it. So they were rolling around with whatever. Maybe he was sweating profusely. And they shot him in out of order. All right, we'll read the character error, and that'll be the end of that one. In the segment Phase I Clinical Trials, okay, Phase I Clinical Trials, the main character reports to the clinic that he, quote, knows the difference between a flash of light and a bloody blank person, end quote. And that was that he wasn't the clinic to, that he wants the clinic to fix the problem with his prosthetic eye. For him to think the clinic can stop the visions by fixing the eye, he must, by his own logic, be having visions and not encountering actual bloody people. By extension, he should not believe fixing the eye would solve the problem, which we eventually find out does not solve the problem. So, to answer that little bit of tidbit. So, let's take a look at, do we have taglines? We only got one for this one. Taglines, my favorite segment. Here we go. The thing that sells the movie, that goes on the poster as you see below me. Here it is. The one tagline, who's tracking you? Yeah. That's the one tagline they got. I think they could have went back on it. I get it, but also like, eh. All right. Yeah, it grossed $21,833, and the worldwide release was $805,574. I know I didn't do that with the last movie, but exactly. And I don't know what the budget was. I don't know where you can see the budget, but I see how much money it actually made. So there you go. So with that said, we got to give it a review. So let's give it the review. According to Foxy gives it a 6.5. 6.5. Now I just want to let you know, Foxy gave the last one a 5. So there's the review there. And Alana, you said, I did start watching the movie, but I just wasn't feeling the horror movie vibes in the moment. That's fair. And this one, the VHS movies are a little hard to get into, especially with how violent that some of them can get into. There is one last one, but we'll get to that in just a second. So, with that said, because Foxy was the only one that reviewed it, the official PT Nation review goes to a 6.5. Here's the thing. I did not like this movie as much as I liked the first one. I think the first one is better. I think the main storyline was a little bit better. I think that the segments were a lot better. They didn't draw as long as some of them did. And then the good ones, though this one did, I think the zombie one is a good story. It's a good vignette. The alien one was good as well. I think that had a good story as well. It wrapped up real quick when I felt like it was kind of going to, but it went a little too long. It just went a little too long. So with that said, I gave this one way lower of a score, and I gave it a 4.6 out of 10. That is my official review of VHS 2. I just don't think, I think that the mainline story wasn't as great. It kind of loses you. You don't really give a shit about them. As much as I don't like the douchebags, at least the douchebag storyline was kind of its own thing to begin with. There is so many things left up to your own interpretation, like the eye one, where you don't know quite why he got the eye. You know he was in an accident. You don't know who the people are. You have to later seem like you have to assume, like, why are those people after him? I had to put two and two together and think that, oh, I guess he says he was in an accident. I'm guessing he probably killed the daughter and dad. We don't know. I don't even know if they're related. I don't know if they're even related to that situation. They just are attacking him. It's just really weird. That story also is all over the place. The second one is the zombie one, which I did like. The third one is the long cult one, which it does get there, but with it being in like anthology movie, to have something like that we now know is actually originally a 45-minute cut, you can kind of tell that could have been its own movie, and it was just too much character development that I'm like, I don't give a shit anymore. Move on. We're done. Get to the stuff that happens. And when the stuff does happen, you're kind of like, all right, yeah, okay, we got there. But it was a little too late. So, and then the last one, which was the alien one, it was okay too. I think that one was like my second favorite one. But I think too much of the things were not that great. And if you watch the first movie and then come back to this one, and then you're like, or you're trying to tell someone like, hey, I liked the first one, is the second one worth watching? I don't think so. I don't think it's worth, I think you watch the best one is the first one. I think the stories were better. I think the backstory with the douchebags was better. So right now, that's where I'm giving it. But I want to let you know, you don't have to take my word for it. The PT Nation, ergo Foxy, who also watched the movie, gave it a 6.5. And that's why we have now 2 rating scores. You get the Primal Target official seal, and you get the PT Nation one. Exactly. So that is going to be it for me here tonight. If you watched the video version of this over there on YouTube, thank you guys so much for watching. If you want to watch the live version, make sure you click on that link in the description down there that says twitch.tv/primal_target. And you can go watch this live and be a part of the chat amongst these lovely people over here to my left side. And then this one is done. But the next one, which is VHS Viral. That is the next movie we'll be watching, a part of MovieKombat for our spooky season. And again, that's available on Hulu and Peacock as of right now. I don't know when you will be watching this, but there it is. If you want to watch the video versions of this, or you missed any of this and you're watching this live, if you want to catch up and see what happened, you can watch just this segment, MovieKombat, over there on YouTube with the link here. And yeah, you can watch it and be a part of it and relive it every Sunday, one day before the next one happens, so you get all caught up. Anyway, that's going to be it for me here tonight. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys so much for listening. And I'll see you guys next week when we talk about VHS Viral. Good night. Oh no, her pants fell down.
Now it's my turn. Oh no. This is going to go extreme. Okay, can we...
Okay. Right.
For fuck's sake.
She said I have a nice cock. I'm,
She's kissing their base.
Kissing. Oh my god, I have
Matthew's gonna-
choices!
Oh, whoa. Green